The machines are loud, but silence is louder, the nurse whispered when she thought I couldn't hear. My name is Clara Whitfield. I'm 29, and if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. The hospital lights flickered like they couldn't decide if I was still alive. They called it a coma. My mother called it an opportunity. I only know because later, voices bled through tubes and wires. My mom's sharp tone, cutting the sterile air. She wouldn't want to live like this. File the papers. It's time to pull the plug. My sister, echoing her like a shadow. I'll back you, Mom. We all know Clara was fragile. Fragile. That word hung over me like cracked glass. I wanted to scream, but silence pressed harder like a second skin. And then footsteps. A door creaked in the courthouse, where my life had been reduced to signatures. A man entered. His shoes hit the floor like gavel strikes. My father, usually thunder, went silent. The judge's eyes scanned the fresh papers, his lips curling into something unreadable. This, the judge said slowly, changes everything. A key clinked onto the wooden table. I wasn't there, yet I felt it. The sound lodged inside me, heavy, metallic, impossible to ignore. Have you ever had family cross your boundaries so deeply you wondered if blood really means love? Tell me in the comments. I want to know if I'm alone. That key will haunt me until I can hold it myself. When I finally woke, the ceiling tiles above me were the same dull beige I'd memorized in dreams. My throat burned, raw from tubes that were gone now. But the first thing I noticed wasn't the ache in my chest. It was the way my mother's chair sat empty, its cushion indented, abandoned like she'd left in a hurry. My father was there instead, staring at the floor as if words were written in the linoleum. He didn't flinch when I whispered, "Dad." He only looked up, eyes rimmed with something I hadn't seen before, fear, maybe guilt. "You still wear that perfume?" he asked suddenly, a sentence so strange I almost laughed. But it wasn't a question, it was a shield. He couldn't bring himself to talk about court, about the papers, about the man who'd walked in. On my bedside table I saw it, a small silver key. Cold, simple, out of place among plastic cups and hospital charts. "Who put this here?" My voice cracked. No answer. Only the steady hum of machines and his silence wrapping around us. I reached for the key, my hand trembling, and the metal burned against my palm. It wasn't just an object, it was proof. Proof that something had shifted while I slept. In that moment, I knew two things. My family hadn't just debated my life, they'd gambled it. And the man who changed everything wasn't done yet. My recovery wasn't healing, it was evidence. And I was about to find out who wanted me erased and why. The first night out of the ICU, I couldn't sleep. The silver key lay on my chest, its weight heavier than the heart monitor's steady beep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my mother's voice again. "Pull the plug." A nurse wheeled in dinner I didn't touch. Mashed potatoes, cooling into glue. I stared at the key, rolling it between my fingers, wondering what it opened. A locker? A safe? A secret? Then the door cracked open. My sister slipped in, hair pulled back too neatly, face too calm. "You should rest," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "Why did you back Mom?" Her eyes darted to the tray. Not to me. It wasn't like that. "You don't understand. We thought," she trailed off, clutching the strap of her purse so tight her knuckles went white. "You thought I was gone," I finished for her. Her silence was louder than any confession. I held up the key. "Do you know what this is?" Her reaction betrayed her before her mouth could. A flicker, fear, recognition. "Where did you get that?" she hissed, voice sharper than glass. The monitor beeped faster with my heartbeat. "It was here when I woke up. Someone left it." She looked at the door like she might bolt, then leaned in close. "Clara, don't use it. Just don't." And just like that, she turned and slipped out, leaving the air colder, heavier. The key burned hotter in my hand. Whatever it opened, it was the reason I was still alive. Morning sunlight, cut across the hospital blinds, stripes of gold on white sheets. I traced the key's edges in my palm until a knock at the door broke the silence. A man in a charcoal suit stepped in. Clean lines, no wasted movement. He wasn't family. Clara Whitfield. His voice was calm, practiced. He set a folder on the tray where my untouched breakfast Saturday. My name's Daniel Harker. I represented you in court. Represented me. Words that felt foreign. You left this. I held up the key. He nodded, slow. I couldn't say more while you were unconscious. But that key isn't just metal, it's leverage. Your mother and sister didn't want anyone to see what's locked away. My stomach tightened. What's inside? Daniel hesitated, his jaw working. Financial records. A trust fund in your name. Millions, Clara. Money your mother petitioned to reallocate if you didn't make it. I froze. The hum of machines filled the room, mocking the silence between us. Why save me? I asked. His eyes softened just slightly. Because the law was clear and because someone had to. The door opened again. My father appeared, shoulders heavy. He saw Daniel, saw the key in my hand, and stopped dead. You gave it to her, Dad whispered, voice thick with something between anger and relief. Daniel didn't flinch. She deserves to know. The folder slid closer to me. Pages inside it rustled, alive with numbers and signatures that could rewrite everything. The key wasn't just survival. It was inheritance. And I suddenly understood why my own blood wanted me gone. I pressed the folder open with shaking hands. Lines of numbers blurred, but a single phrase cut through the haze. Whitfield Research Trust. Sole beneficiary, Clara Monroe Whitfield. My breath caught. The trust wasn't just large. It was untouchable unless I died. My father paced, rubbing his temples. Clara, you have to understand. Your mother, she thought it was practical. She wanted control. Your sister just followed. Practical. My voice cracked, thin but sharp. Killing me was practical. Dad winced. He reached for the chair, sat down heavy. I didn't sign, but I didn't fight either. That's on me. The key burned against my palm. I stared at Daniel. Where does this open? He slid a small card across the tray. Bank deposit box. Downtown. You'll need me to access it legally. Without the key, it vanishes into probate. The word probate stung, like my life had already been rehearsed as an estate. My sister's words from last night rang back. Don't use it. The silence pressed heavy. Machines beeped, a nurse's shoes clicked by in the hallway. The smell of antiseptic clung to everything. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered. They would have let me die just to take this? Dad lifted his eyes, raw and wet. Clara, I think it's worse. They already spent some of it. The folder slid further open. Withdrawals. Transfers. My signature forged. My hand tightened around the key. They hadn't just tried to erase me. They'd stolen me, piece by piece, while I still breathed. And now I was awake. The hospital discharged me on a gray afternoon. Rain streaking the windows like the world itself was unsettled. Daniel met me at the curb, holding an umbrella. My father trailed behind, quiet, as if every raindrop was an unspoken apology. The key felt heavier in my coat pocket. We drove downtown, the city blurring past. I pressed my forehead to the glass, watching strangers hurry across slick streets. They were free of betrayal. They didn't know the sound of their own family signing them away. At the bank, marble floors echoed under our shoes. The vault doors loomed, massive and different. My hand trembled as I slid the key into the narrow slot. A click. The sound reverberated through me like a pulse. Inside the box, more papers, account ledgers, property deeds, but also photographs. Me at 6, holding a birthday cake. Me at 12, in braces, smiling awkwardly. Each photo stamped with dates. each marked with notes in my mother's handwriting. Assets. Liability. Replaceable. I staggered back. My chest heaved. She catalogued me. Daniel placed a steady hand on the table. Clara, these are more than records. They're evidence. Fraud. Exploitation. Enough to take them to court. I lifted one photo, edges frayed. My sister's face smiled beside mine, frosting on her cheek. For a second, I almost forgot. But then I saw the note beneath. She'll fold if Clara's gone. The vault air felt colder. My father finally spoke. They'll fight. You know that. This won't end in peace. I slid the photos back into the box, locking it again. My reflection in the steel shone back at me. Thinner, sharper. They started this fight when they tried to end me, I whispered. The key no longer felt like survival. It felt like a weapon. The hearing room smelled of wood polish and tension. Rows of benches filled with whispers, neighbors, cousins, people who suddenly wanted to see. My mother sat rigid at the front, pearls at her neck like armor. My sister sat beside her, lips pressed thin, eyes darting everywhere but me. I walked in slower than I meant to, came tapping against the floor. The key swung from a chain around my neck, glinting beneath the courtroom lights. Every sound, the shuffle of papers, the cough of a clerk, felt amplified. Daniel set the evidence box on the table. He didn't speak yet. He didn't need to. The weight of its lock, its secrets, filled the room. Clara, my mother said suddenly, her voice smooth but sharp. This performance is cruel. We only wanted what was best. Best. That word sliced me in two. I stared straight at her. You wanted me gone. Not best. Convenient. A murmur rippled through the room. The judge leaned forward. We'll examine the records. Daniel opened the box. One by one, he placed the documents down, withdrawal slips, deeds, my forged signatures. And then the photographs, the ones marked assets and liability. Gasps scattered like sparks across dry wood. My sister broke first. Her hands shook. I just did what she told me. Quiet. My mother snapped, but her voice faltered. The judge's gavel struck once. This is no longer a family matter. It is fraud, and potentially attempted negligence, bordering on criminal intent. My mother's face drained of color. The key pressed cool against my skin, a reminder of how close I'd come to silence. The room wasn't frozen anymore, it was burning. And I wasn't fragile glass. I was the shard that cut back. The verdict didn't thunder. It landed quietly like a curtain falling. The judge ruled the trust fully mine, voiding every forged withdrawal. My mother's rights to manage anything of mine revoked. My sister, though spared criminal charges, was bound by a signed restitution plan that left her trembling in her seat. When the gavel struck for the last time, the room exhaled. I stood, came steady beneath my hand, and let the silence fill me. For once, it wasn't suffocating. It was mine. Outside, the sky had cleared after rain. Sunlight touched the courthouse steps. Reporters clustered, microphones raised. But I didn't need their attention. My revenge wasn't their headline. It was my clarity. My father lingered at the doors, unable to meet my eyes. I should have fought harder, he murmured. You still can, I replied softly. But not for me. For yourself. His shoulders sagged, and for the first time, I saw a man unraveling the weight of his silence. Later, alone in my apartment, I placed the key on the windowsill. No longer a weapon, no longer survival. Just metal, cold and small. It had carried me from death to this moment, and now it was only a reminder. I had been counted out, erased on paper. Yet here I stood, breathing. I burned my mother's notes in a ceramic bowl, watching the smoke rise like all her labels scattering into air. Fragile, replaceable, liability. None of them stuck anymore. If you've ever been written off by your own family, say same in the comments because you're not alone. They tried to end me with silence. I answered with truth.